Today on Dodson's Corner, we came up with 5 changes each that we want to see in the UFC in 2025.
Good job. We got there in the end. Yes, I actually like all my picks. Originally, I was like, I don't know if I can think of 5 things, but you know what? No,
it was easy.
I know exactly what the UFC needs to change.
It was easy to come up. I could have done 500.
Dana, sub me in. Hire me.
All right, Lucas, let's hear your first thing that needs to change.
First thing is the bonus structure. I think the bonus structure in the UFC, like, it's fine. You know, 50K, great, good money for a prelim fighter. For a champion, they don't care. 50K is not that much if you're making 2 million, right? Like the big pay-per-view stars. Anyways, instead of having like a major fight of the night or a performance of the night bonuses, have a base submission/finish bonus so that each time a fighter gets a finish, they get maybe like an extra 10K or 20K on top of their already bonuses that they're getting. So keep the fight of the night and performance of the night, but just add on this base finish bonus. And then like for a prelim fighter, maybe it's 10K, and then main card fighter, maybe it's 25K for each finish you get. And then obviously like that number should be higher, but I have to be realistic here.
Yeah.
Like what could the UFC actually afford to pay? I think it incentivizes people to be more reckless and, you know, get a finish. But at the same time, it's not like the most amount of money. They're not losing money that much. So I was like, this could be realistic. It would be nice to see. And, yeah, I don't know. Like I was going to ask you, what do you think is like a reasonable number?
I think like 10K on like the prelims, like that's a big deal for those guys.
Yeah,
they're only making like
6 and 6.
Yeah, still like, you know, have your prelim, your early prelim, your prelim, and your main card.
Yeah,
a set bonus is nice, and then you have your 50K still, you know. But like it, or even on the main card, you know, if we don't have the finish bonus on the prelims and stuff, like a main card 50K bonus, you know, or whatever, just to like get them to try to finish.
Yeah, or even like do performance tonight, fight night bonuses for every prelims or early prelims, and main card. So there's like 6 different bonuses. Could be interesting.
And I think that if you're the UFC, you're putting in money, but you're hoping that the product's better. Exactly. And obviously, if we're in a UFC where there's more KOs, more submissions, more finishes, that's going to bring in more viewers.
Yeah. And I think like the reason they took away that 300K bonus and like the people asking for bigger bonuses is because Dana said like, well, it's not changing anything, right? But I think this is like a small enough amount of money where it wouldn't make like the biggest difference to their. It's not 300K.
Yeah.
And then also the gloves. I think the gloves made a difference.
100%.
Yeah.
Surely they had to. All right. My first change. This might be an unpopular opinion. Less fight nights.
Okay.
Like I liked the amount of fight nights we had maybe in like around the summer, but I feel like at the end of the year, we basically had a fight night every single weekend.
Yeah.
And there were some dog water ones. Like having one ranked fight and then just unranked guys, just absolute bums, is like, how about we cut that? And I get that we need guys to fight. Yeah. You know, but maybe make those fights that happen on like the UFC network, you know, but like having just dog water fight nights, like having a fight night main evented by Fluffy Hernandez and Michelle Pereira, that is not a fight night main event. You know, I want to see the Moreno versus the Albazi, or the Tyra versus the Royval. You know, those are great fight night main events. But if you're giving me crap women fight main events, then it's like
Rose Namajunas.
Yeah. Like either cut down on fight nights so we can have better quality cards, or book better fight nights. Yeah. You know, better main events. Just like two top 15 heavyweights fighting each other. Oh, fight night main event.
That's a classic. That's a classic. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, it's totally fair. I think that the reason why, like back in the 200, like early 200 cards, the reason why those cards always had like so many like recognizable names is because there was just less cards, right? They weren't doing the frequency of the cards. We have 14 cards a year now, which is a lot. Pay-per-views. And then you have all the fight nights. So, but just by nature of the frequency and the quantity of pumping out these fights, you're going to have it diluted. Yeah. There's not going to be as much big names. So I think it's like, do you want to watch UFC almost every weekend, or do you want to have better cards like every other week? Yeah. It's just a decision. And I think that they've decided that with their broadcasting deals with ESPN and, you know, Sportsnet or whoever they're with, and the fans, I think they want to have as much screen time as possible. That's why they have like UFC Fight Pass 24/7. You can just turn it on and leave it on.
Yeah, or even chuck on some random like they chucked on like some Tuesday night like Contender Series on Tuesday night.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't mind that.
Yeah.
Or maybe we figure out something new for the challenge. No, tough.
Tough, yeah.
Tough. Like figure out something new where we're not having tough on our fight nights because those
Right.
fights are never that great.
For some reason, Dana White Contender Series, like those fight nights are more exciting than like the average actual fight night. You know, it's crazy.
Those fights are always banging.
Yeah. It's because they don't have anything to lose.
Yeah.
All right. My next change is bring back the personal sponsors on shorts. This is something I'm really passionate about. I think it's one of the biggest complaints about the UFC is that fighter pay is just so low. And being the biggest and pretty much only MMA promotion where you can become famous and still having low fighter pay is a problem, I think. So I think short sponsors not only fixes like a large portion of fighter pay, but it also doesn't take money out of the UFC pockets.
That's true.
You know, like the bonus structure I talked about, that is the UFC paying them directly. But short sponsors is completely different.
I mean, it might cut down on like the prices that it costs for ring sponsors because there's more competition in terms of brands that you're seeing.
Right.
But
I don't know, because I think like shorts, it's really personal to the person, right? I have an example later, but I think they could do minimal spots. Like you could only have 3 sponsors max on the short, so it doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
I think they're all about like the visual representation.
yeah, like those 2000 shorts with like it was like
Yeah,
someone
they
went
look like
crazy
trash.
with stickers, you know,
Yeah.
with like 80 sponsors.
So they want to look professional.
Or even just have one sponsor, you know, like everyone gets like 1 or 2.
Yeah, like it's like a title sponsor.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. And then I think you could also like limit where they can put it, like, you know, one on the side, one on the front, or like one on the back, right? I think very intentional so it looks cohesive.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow. That was awesome.
That's so cute.
And then like for main events, you know how they give some fighters custom shorts? What if they had the custom shorts sponsored by Intel, sponsored by football team, you know? Like I think that's such an easy way to promote, like to get more money for the fighters, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe even it's a 70-30 split. The fighter gets 70%, UFC gets 30%. So they're still making more money. But think about Ilya's shorts at UFC 308.
Yeah.
He's like Spain superstar now, and I feel like one of the football teams in Spain would have probably wanted to sponsor him.
There might be I don't know if that's legal because like sponsoring another athlete from another sport,
I don't know.
that's not your market.
It could be. There might be some weird things, but I feel like, you know, you get some big Spanish company who's like breaking into a new market. It's like, I feel like they'd pay a lot of money,
Oh, yeah.
like millions probably, if they're the title sponsor on shorts.
Yeah. All right. My second change is I want the old school press conferences. You know, I want 10 guys in a room yelling and throwing stuff at each other. Even like some of those COVID press conferences where like the face-to-face standoffs on like YouTube and stuff. Like those were super cool. Like let's add more hype to these press conferences. We have the UFC awards coming out in a few days, and that has rivalry of the year. There were no true rivalries because these fighters literally have 2 days before they're at the press conference and 1 day before they're at the weigh-in.
Yeah.
That's what you have to build, and or else it's just Twitter beef, you know? Or even like what they did in boxing, that package they made for Fury and Usyk was so fire.
Yeah.
Imagine one of those for like Max versus Ilya.
That would have been sick.
Insane. You know, you have like these huge fights. And I think in 2025, we're going to have some super fights. You know, like it is looking like we're going to have some super fights, like legendary, some of the greatest fights of all time.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this place where we're doing this extra promotion a month out, having these press conferences, you know?
They did it with Marab and Umar and Islam.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where we're leaning for 2025, but let's get back to these old school press conferences.
Yeah, I'll talk about the same thing because I have bring back real promotion as one of my things. I think press conferences, press tours, and face-offs, like, or face-to-face should be mandatory for all pay-per-views. Doesn't matter if it's a big fight or not. Do it for every pay-per-view. And then face-offs, I think that's the biggest thing that they're missing out on because it's a low-budget way and it really, like, promotes the intensity and the rivalry between two people. Like imagine if we actually had an in-person face-to-face interview with Max and Ilya. It would have been great, right? So that is the thing that really baffles me why they're not doing that more because it doesn't cost them. You know, you hire a mediator, that's about it.
Yeah.
Bodyguards, security guards, like it's put them in a black room. It's not difficult. Usyk versus Fury, some of the big boxing fights like Bivol versus Beterbiev, they're just in like a black room. It's not fancy at all, but they get millions and millions of views. It's a really good way to get like clips.
Yeah.
You know, everything is about clips now. I think the UFC should start really like honing in on that, if that makes sense. They need to make clippable moments that go viral. And I think that face-offs are a really good way to get clippable moments where they say something stupid or they stutter and they get made fun of. Like, yeah, it's just such an easy way to get more hype around a fight. And I think it adds more stakes as well. If you have this person saying, you know, I'm going to beat you this way to their face, it adds more stakes.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. My third change, fix judging. More so, I want them to tell us what they're judging on.
Yeah.
And have it be cohesive on what they're judging. You know, there's no other sport in the world where it is so mysterious about what they're judging. What are these judges actually looking for? We don't know. If you came out and gave us a set thing and they say that there's a set thing, it's damage and then strikes and then controls. But that is not true because we have fights go the opposite way. And then I think also continue to punish these judges who are doing a terrible job. If you make a terrible decision and it's like clearly wrong from 99 people out of 100, like let's have a punishment, you know, like I don't know if we need to fire them, you know, instantly, but suspend or fine them, you know, because there's no reason that you should be affecting someone else's career, affecting someone else's life through your mistake. You know, you look at any other job, the guy working at McDonald's just goes and does something completely wrong, you know, he's going to get in trouble.
I also have that. I have better judging standards. I think it's probably the worst thing about this year. It was the worst part of 2024 for me. And I think it's definitely something that is fixable. It's just difficult to put your finger on it, like how to fix it. And it not only ruins the fan experience, but it also ruins the fighter experience, like you were saying. Yeah. Like, it is ruining some people's lives. Example, if Strickland versus Duplessis went a different way, Strickland is making pay-per-view money on his next fight.
Yeah.
And that's potentially $1 million, $1.5 million that he's missing out on. So, like, that's like life-changing money for some people, right? And so I think that if you're ruining the fight... If you're ruining the fighters' careers, that's something that needs to be punished for sure. I think mandatory yearly standardized training for judges is something that should be implemented. And I think that's an easy thing to do, right? Yeah. Like it surely doesn't take that much time. Judges, what else are they doing? Come on. And on top of that, every year the UFC should be publishing any changes to the sport or judging that the fans should be aware of. So like it should be widely available to the public. It shouldn't be some hidden thing. Because like you said, like soccer, football, like you can look up a real rule book for it. MMA, it's like, I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a difficult thing to fix because it's so subjective, but like you got to start trying at some point. Else it's going to turn into boxing.
Yeah, and then who knows about the AI judging too.
Yeah, exactly.
How effective that'll be.
Yeah, I'd like to see them try it.
Yeah, it might be harder in MMA than boxing just because how you value everything. But all right, my next thing, I know I said I wanted less fight nights, but give me more international pay-per-views and fight nights.
Yeah.
You know, there is just always so much hype. Like we think about in our awards voting, our top 4 fight nights of the year, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Macau, and Paris.
Yeah.
Because obviously the UFC is going to put more money into those ones. They're going to add better fighters. But there's just also more hype from the fans, you know? That Paris crowd was unreal, you know? You go and put a fight night in Ireland who never sees UFC. Imagine those Irish boys because they love UFC, you know? Have Gary main event in Ireland card. Huge deal, you know? You go and we're going to have London. London, I would predict now that London's going to be the best fight night of the year just because you're going to have these English boys so hyped to see UFC come to them, you know?
Yeah.
You have a fight night go down to Mexico. You know, you have a fight night go down to Brazil, you know? Yeah. They're going to be so much more hyped to see their guys. And it also gives us opportunity to see some of these guys from different countries in a little bit more of a spotlight, you know, and have them fighting for something a little bit more. You know?
Even UFC Tampa, like even though it's still in the States, remember how the entire stadium was filled up in the prelims? Mm-hmm. Like Vegas does not have that.
No.
If you watch a Vegas card, it's like even the first fight of the main card, the seats still aren't filled.
Apex ain't even full.
Well, the Apex, they don't really have that much
Yeah,
seating.
I
But
know,
in Tampa, start off early prelims, the second fight, everyone's there.
Yeah.
Like there's cheering and stuff. And it's like, it's almost weird because you're watching it and it's like, oh, this is hype.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, it's still early prelims. But everyone else around you is like, feeding off the energy. So it just provides a better experience.
Yeah, and it also just allows the UFC to grow, going to these different markets,
True.
It helps the UFC. It's going to make them more money in the long run. It's going to make us more money in the long run.
So true. All right, my next thing, I think this is my fifth thing, weight cutting. I think one promotion has a better weight cutting system than the UFC. And if the UFC is the, premier MMA mixed martial arts promotion, I think they need to seriously take care of their fighters a little bit better. And I think the rehydration system is really good in one, but they're not judging, but their punishment is a little bit too harsh. Like if you miss weight even by the smallest amount, you're stripped of your belt immediately. Ooh. No questions asked. So I know Charles was stripped of his belt for missing weight, but it's tough. It's tough to say because, like, if it's a fighter you like, then you're like, oh, it sucks. If it's a fighter you don't like, then it's like, oh, they deserve that. So
it's tough because if you have rules like that, then you're just gonna have people dropping out the week before. If you get you have a complication with your cut, they're just gonna drop out the 2 days before, so you don't get stripped.
True. Yeah, I think it feels like the UFC just lets their fighters get to the brink of death, and they just don't care. Or surely they have doctors and stuff, but it's that's what you're expected to do to make weight. You're expected to almost die.
Yeah, how many pictures are there out there of probably the most popular fan fighter in the UFC, Max Holloway, looking like he is gonna die?
Yeah.
Looking frail as all ever.
Yeah, I think reducing the amount of missed weight fighters would be one of the best things the UFC could do, because it always sucks to have a fight canceled, especially a title fight. But I just don't know how you can do that.
Yeah.
How do you prevent people from missing weight? It's almost impossible. So I don't think that's something you can fix. But just in general, keeping their fighters more healthy, it might also improve the longevity. Imagine if every fighter just moved up 10 pounds. Flyweight is now 135, bantamweight is now 145, that sort of thing. I know it would take time to get used to. It'd be weird if bantamweight was 145.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. I think it's just more healthy.
Yeah.
What's the point of weight draining these fighters? They're actually fighting worse because they're so weight drained and unhealthy, rather than having them it just makes sense.
But then you'll just have guys, if you moved every division up 10 pounds, you just have guys go and cut that 10 pounds and they'd be even more frail.
I know. I think it is a flawed system because you could just have weight bullies, even worse. But I do think there should be some sort of test. Have some sort of test where it's you measure the water percentage in your body or something, and that way it's fair for everyone.
Yeah. All right, my next change, better commentary. There was some absolute horrid commentary in 2024. Basically,
Bisping?
Bisping, awful. Basically, anytime Joe's not there, it's a mess.
Sometimes.
What was the pay-per-view that was it 310 that was awful?
Well, no, 310 had all the normal guys.
Oh, what was it, Macau that was awful?
It might have been Macau.
Thankfully for the fights, because I remember after everyone was
I think it was Macau.
That was unwatchable.
Yeah.
Which one had the girl on it? Was it Macau had the girl? DC's bad with
people.
With bad people. With Bisping, he's awful. With Joe, he knows his role and he sits in it a little bit better. But I think when Joe's not there, he tries to.
You need someone to rein him back.
Yeah. Can't get in on this absolute waffling.
Yeah. If it's DC, Bisping, and a girl, cooked.
Oh, I'm okay with John Anik. I think that he's very insightful, but obviously Joe's the best. Any card where Joe's not on commentary is obviously not going to be as good.
You need John Anik to actually give you stats and he's done all the research. Mm-hmm. Joe is there just he's hype, he adds excitement to the fights. DC is there to waffle a little bit, talk about wrestling and fill in the empty space, but DC has become really weak.
Yeah.
I watch old fights, or not even that old, but 250, 260 around that era. The commentary is just better.
Yeah.
It is just better. DC is more locked in, right? It feels like he doesn't care anymore.
I have a question for you. How are you going to feel about this? Also, this is for the people in the comments. So in college football, in between games, you get like some celebrities in there. And the other day, Shane Gillis was on there. And
I saw that.
He was hilarious.
Yeah.
How would you feel if like, not for like main cards, but like early prelims of some pay-per-view, like imagine having like Theo Vaughn on commentary.
It'd be so funny.
Like I think that would be awesome. Like or maybe like in between the fights, get Theo in there. Yeah. Maybe not during the fights because he was. Oh, I remember when I did that to someone back in the day. We would do that to each other. We killed each other come.
Yeah, no, they do it in boxing too. They interview like in between rounds. They'll like have an interviewer talking to a celebrity. I think it's interesting, even though like if you get the wrong person, it's just absolute waffle.
Yeah, but like having Theo Vaughn in there to break up that 15 minutes of nothingness of just John Anik stat waffling for 15 minutes. Like I think it's something you could explore, you know?
Yeah.
Or just have him on imagine him on commentary for the early prelims of a fight.
The whole time. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, he could do it. He has a podcast.
Yeah, he could talk 100%. He actually, I think he knows UFC.
He does.
He likes to watch it.
Yeah. He's an early prelim guy. He's one of us. All right. My last bonus thing is a fan voting system. F1 has this where if they have like a driver of the day award, the fans can vote before the end of a race and the driver can win that award. So it's like only fan based thing. And I don't think it would work as well in UFC because it's pretty much like a vanity award. It doesn't mean anything in F1, but maybe the UFC could actually make something where if fans vote they got extra bonus or something like that. They get some sort of promotion or I don't know, but I think it'd be kind of fun because I would actually vote. Like I don't care about driver of the day in F1 because it doesn't mean anything. That's why I don't vote. But if like we voted in UFC, if it was on the UFC app or the Fight Pass, like I would actually vote if it meant something.
My last thing I want to see changed is, do you remember UFC 307, how active the judges were with breaking up the clinch when there was no movement, standing them up when there was no movement?
Yeah.
I want to see that happen more often inside of the UFC because ultimately you're going to see some of these diehard grappling fans get so mad, but go watch jiu-jitsu. At the end of the day, the UFC is here for the fans. That is what's making Dana White and Hunter and all these fighters money, you know? And when you have a pay-per-view like 310, which I wouldn't say was a boring pay-per-view, but you have consistently half the fights, casual fans, we were there with like 10 people and most of them were casuals, not enjoying the product because it's lay and pray wrestling. Me and Lucas can enjoy lay and pray wrestling. You know, we appreciate it more. It's hard to say these words, but like to a casual fan, we understand what's going on. Yeah. We're looking more into it than the casual viewer. The casual viewer does not want to see Movsar and Sterling lay on each other for 15 minutes.
Well, I think also even the Shavkat fight.
Yeah, it was very clinchy.
Yeah, like the people we were watching that with aren't gonna like that, which is fine.
Yeah. But like at UFC 307, I remember like just how shocked we were that the judges were just standing it up. They were in the clinch for 2 seconds. No, break it up.
True.
So like I don't know if it has to be that extreme, but if we see long periods of time of no movement on the ground or against the cage, like why not break it up? You know, it adds more excitement.
Yeah, for sure.
But with that all being said, that is going to wrap it up for us today. Let us know in the comments what changes you want to see happen to the UFC in 2025. And while you're down there, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.